Today we're going to talk about a new camera I bought and a new camera I bought, along with some updates to the channel, a Fuji event that I have planned for a week's time, and yeah, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another video where I talk to the camera for 10 minutes. It's been a while since I've done one of these, mainly because if you've watched a video probably 2 or 3 videos ago, but 6 months in real time, I moved house. I'd moved to a completely different part of the country, 1,000 kilometers from where I grew up. And yeah, so I'm in my new house and looking forward to really settling in, exploring the local area more and getting a few videos out. If you're watching this video a few days after I've uploaded it and you're in the Dunedin area around the 5th of October 2024, I will be at Photo Warehouse with Jesse from Fujifilm NZ, talking all things Fuji cameras, mainly talking about the GFX100S2, the Fujinon 500mm f5.6, spectacular lens, and the relatively new released X-T50, which I haven't had a chance to have a play with yet. So I'll be there for about 2 hours from 10 till midday, and yeah, I'll be there repping the Fuji brand. Looking forward to seeing everyone show up. So in terms of the upload schedule for this channel, the plans are to upload a video every 2 weeks. Whether or not I achieve that, we'll see, but that's the plan for the rest of the year, with the exception of December. So those of you who know me personally, I generally take December off of posting to social media and YouTube and the like, mainly because it's a difficult month for me. Back in 2021, I lost my dad to cancer, and I lost my wife, so I just take that month off to focus on myself, family time, and just getting out of the whole social media rat race. But that said, I'll still be out producing content and making images. I just won't be sharing stuff or interacting with people on social media. It's just some time to take for me. Finally, I got approached by the good people at kentfaith, who seen the channel, and they said, look, really like what you're doing so far, even though you only have a few hundred subscribers. They didn't say that. But they said, look, would you be interested in us sending you some bits and pieces to review, give us some feedback, and talk about it on your channel? Hard to say no to that, especially when they said you can keep what we send you. So we had a few discussions. I looked at some of the bits and pieces I was interested in, namely filters, things like autofocus adapters for Fuji X and GFX cameras, and tripods. I have a bit of a problem with tripods. I'm literally looking at 3 right now. I have this one, the one you're on, and one sitting right in front of me holding the mic here. And I have one in storage. So yeah, those things I'm really keen to take a look at. And so they started by sending me a set of filters. So this is their Nano-X. I think they've rebranded to the Nano-Xcel line now. And this kit came with a polarizer, a 6-stop and a 3-stop ND, so ND8 and ND64. And then unbeknownst to them, I went ahead and just purchased outright a 10-stop ND1000 to complete the kit. So in terms of feedback for them straight away, this, including the 10-stop in a kit like this, would make pretty much the photographer's essentials bundle, effectively. If you're a landscape photographer, a CPL is pretty much a must, and then you've got your 3, 6 and a 10-stop to complete a kit, so you can do all kinds of long exposure photography kind of stuff. So yeah, really keen to check these out. I'll be using these exclusively for the rest of the year, and then I'll be doing a giveaway. I'll give these away to a subscriber, mainly because to do this sort of thing, because they've said that I can keep these, that would effectively make this a paid review, and I'm not really interested in doing paid reviews, mainly to reduce any bias that I might have, but it's not what I want to make this channel about. So I'll be giving these away, so it's not a paid review, and I'll remove as much bias as I can in terms of my opinions on the filters themselves. But it does mean that one of you guys will get to have this kit, including the bits and pieces that I bought. So I bought the 10 stop, I even bought a couple of magnetic lens caps, and some adapter rings. So this is the 82mm kit, and that'll be on the way to someone in early 2025. That said, they have given me some affiliate links, so if you're interested in buying some of these now before I finish my review, there'll be affiliate links in the description below, along with the discount code. So they gave me the code Jared, just my name, Jared. So if you put that in checkout, you'll get 17% off, which is quite a hefty discount, which is awesome. So big thanks to the people at kentfaith for doing that and showing some interest in my channel. Yeah. So, onto this guy. So this is a Horseman VH field camera. So you might be wondering, what the hell is a field camera? Which is fair. If you're used to seeing digital content from me, this kind of thing is probably very new to you. So a field camera is under the banner of what they call view cameras. A view camera has a lot of functionality over a typical SLR or rangefinder, and they're really quite cool things. But I pulled up a definition of a view camera from good old Wikipedia, and it states a view camera is a large format camera in which the lens forms an inverted image on a ground glass. The image is viewed, composed and focused, and then the ground glass screen is replaced with film to expose the same image. So you take your ground glass off, replace it with a film back, take your shot, dark slide out, take your shot, advance your film, dark slide back in, get in there, pull him off, and then put your ground glass back. So it's quite a slow type of camera to use, but they have a lot of cool functionality that your typical SLRs and stuff don't have. So you might be wondering, Jared, why have you bought this? And that is a very good question, and 100% Nick Carver's fault. So I did his large format photography course a while back, just out of interest and to throw him some support. Fantastic photographer, big fan of his work. And if you're not following him and you've managed to find this channel, then how? But go subscribe to his channel. He's just a cool dude. I had several email conversations with him. I have a few of his prints and a couple of his zines. Just a cool dude. But yeah, I did his large format photography course and really got a hankering for having a view camera like this in my life. That said, it probably does mean I'll be selling my Fuji GSW690 III, because there's a lot of overlap with that camera and this camera, despite them being very different cameras, and mainly because it shoots 6x9 and it has a 65mm lens, which is what this is too. So I think in any situation I'll be using that Fuji GSW, I will probably use this instead anyway. These cameras, really quite cool. Interchangeable lenses, which is why I chose it over the Fuji. So you just have a lens on a lens board, and he just sits in there. Get in there. He just sits in like that. So this came with a range of accessories and a couple of lenses. We'll talk about lenses last, but the accessories that it came with we'll cover now, particularly the ones that either I can't use or I probably won't use. So firstly, it came with a Polaroid back. Unfortunately, this Polaroid holder takes Polaroid pack film, which they don't make anymore. I'm fairly certain you can't buy it anymore, unless you spring out for some Fuji FP100Sii, which has long since expired. And yeah, I'm not really about shooting expired film at the moment, so or paying the exorbitant prices that FP100C goes for, even though it is expired. So unfortunately, that will probably never get used. What definitely will never get used is that it also came with 2 6x9 sheet film holders, and these definitely won't get used because they don't make sheet film in 6x9 anymore. So yeah, these are pretty much just paperweights now. That said, the whole reason why I went for a 6x9 camera over a 4x5 view camera is because I'm not really keen on getting into loading sheet film myself at the moment. So yeah, that's probably not something I was going to get into anyway. It came with not the one, but also a second ground glass and viewing hood, so that's quite handy. Neither of them came with the Fresnel screens, so unfortunately I had to buy a couple of 4x5 ones and cut them down to fit, which is fine. The Fresnels really help viewing the image on the ground glass with a narrow aperture lens. It can be quite dim without the Fresnel. And it came with 2 film backs. So I have a 6x9 and a 6x7 back. I'll use the 6x9 the most, I'm pretty sure. The 6x7 I'll use sometimes, and more often than not if it's a vertical composition, because I prefer a squarer vertical rather than this quite narrow 3x2 vertical. So yeah, so that was most of the equipment. The last bit is this hilarious rotary back. So this sits on here. So let's actually pull it off. So this rotary back is designed to sit in place here, like so. And what you do is you grab your ground glass, you mount it there, you have a film back mounted up here. Well, helps you put it the right way up, Jared, like so. And so what you can do is you can do your composition, focus, and whatnot, and then press this little lever here, rotate so that your film back is in place now, pull your dark slide out, take your photo, advance your film, put your dark slide back in, press the lever, and rotate, and move on to your next composition. So I can see why it exists, but look at it. It's this huge hokey thing on the back of the camera. So it would probably be quite handy if it's very windy and there's a lot of dust blowing about, but in all honesty, I don't see myself using that at all. But yeah, what a hilarious contraption that is. Let's put this guy back in. So yeah, so we'll move into the functionality of the camera in a sec, but first we'll talk about the lenses. So this is a 65mm f7, and it also came with a 105mm f3.5. They sit on these Horseman lens boards. And then I purchased separately a Nikkor, and this is an absolutely stunning lens, 210 f5.6. So in terms of 35mm equivalent, we have 28mm equivalent. This one here is about 90mm, and the 105 is about your standard, so this would be about 40mm equivalent. So 6x9 has a 0.43x crop factor to get you to 35mm equivalents. But onto the functionality of the camera, and the main reasons why I looked at this camera is view cameras like this have what they call movements, and they allow you to really fine-tune a composition and do a few things that you just can't do with your digital cameras these days, or rangefinders, SLRs and the like, without a tilt shift lens, and even those are fairly limited in comparison to this type of thing. So first things first, we'll talk about lens tilt. So this gives you, so you can tilt it forward and you can tilt it back. This gives you control over your depth of field, so that if you imagine your depth of field is a plane from your camera, you have a plane of focus effectively, and you can expand that focus by narrowing your aperture down, or you can shrink your focus by widening your aperture. By tilting your lens, you effectively lay down that field of focus, and then by expanding your depth of field by narrowing your aperture, you turn it into a bit of a wedge. So that allows you to expand your effective or perceived depth of field by laying down your field of focus. So it allows you to get stuff in the foreground and stuff in the background in focus or within your plane of focus, while keeping your aperture a little bit wider than you might ordinarily use. And that would be for a few reasons. One, you want to keep your shutter speed a little bit higher, so you want to have a slightly wider aperture, or you're starting to run into diffraction territory, which means you'll lose sharpness, and that's with your digital type of cameras. That's often a compromise you have to make: depth of field versus diffraction. So that's quite a cool feature. I'll use that a little bit, I'm pretty sure, especially front tilt or forward tilt. Tilting back does the opposite. So it means that you shrink your plane of focus, or you put that wedge in the opposite direction. So a very fine, razor thin field of focus. So you might use that on portraits or something like that, but for landscape photography, I'm not going to use it at all. When you see those tilt shift videos where everything's miniaturized and it's a very razor thin depth of field, that's what they've done. They've used a tilt on their tilt shift lens. One that I probably won't use often, but will use sometimes, is if I press this little lever here, lens swing. So you can hold that down and swing it the other direction. This does the same as lens tilt, but in the horizontal plane. So if you are shooting down the side of a building, or there's a fence that you want in focus, or a row of trees or something like that, you can swing the lens and expand that wedge down the line and expand your plane of focus in the horizontal axis. I'll probably use that sometimes, but I'm not sure how often I will. But cool to have it there if I need it. One that I think I'll use often is shift. So you can shift the lens side to side. That's really handy for if you have an image where you want your subject centered, and if you're shooting that with a digital camera, or with a camera that doesn't have shift capabilities, if you want your subject centered, there's one place you can stand to have that happen. Whereas with a lens with shift, you can stand off center and then shift everything back so that your composition is centered on the piece of film or on your ground glass, which is very cool. It's a very powerful compositional tool to use if you're unable to stand where you might want to stand. Or there might be opportunities or situations where you don't want to stand directly straight on with your subject centered, but you still want it centered in the frame. So for example, if you're shooting a building and you want to see the side of a building for whatever reason, maybe it's getting hit with a bit of light, or maybe there's a mural or a painting that you just want to catch. Maybe there's a sign in front of the building that you want to see slightly. You can stand off center, so you catch the side of the building or the side of the sign, but then shift everything back so that everything's centered. Say you have like a lamppost or a power pole that's intersecting with your subject, you can shift slightly, that slightly creates a gap, but then center everything back to where you want it. A very powerful technique, and I'll use that often, I'm fairly certain. And finally, on this lens standard, we have lens rise. So we can lift the lens, but we also have lens fall. A little bit of lens fall on this, but not much. But you can also actually drop it down. But I probably won't use lens fall all that much. Lens rise I'll use all the time. So if you've been following me for a wee while, you'll have seen a lot of my lone tree compositions where I've got the tree in that bottom third and a lot of negative space up top. With a camera like this, if you want your vertical lines vertical, you can use rise to include a tall subject while keeping the vertical lines vertical. So if you've ever seen photos of trees, or maybe something tall, and a person's had to tilt their camera back like this in order to get that subject in the frame, often you'll see anything tall on the outside bend in a little bit just from the distortion, and because of the fact that they've tilted the lens, and anything right in the middle will look like that leaning back. And that's because you've tilted your film plane back. So with lens rise, you can keep your film plane vertical, which means all your vertical lines will remain vertical, but still include something tall in your composition. So yeah, I'll use that one all the time, I'm certain. Particularly because I really like that composition where negative space up top, something small down the bottom. On the back, we have movements too. So if I undo these knobs here, it means I can pull that out, which gives me some bellows extension, which I absolutely need to use that 210mm. And we have tilt. We have tilt on the film standard as well. So we can tilt forward or tilt back, but also swing. So these movements do the same as they do on the front. So if you tilt forward, means you can tilt you're expanding your wedge for your depth of field. Tilt back does the opposite. Swing does the same in the horizontal plane. But also, it has another side effect, and it can be used compositionally as well, is if you tilt like this, if you tilt forward, not only are you getting an expanded depth of field for a given aperture, but also anything in the background or in the top part of the frame is going to appear larger because it's closer to the film. Anything in the foreground is going to appear smaller. So if you're shooting with a wide angle and you've got mountains in the background and a foreground right in front of you, you can use lens and film tilt to not only get everything in focus, but also bring those mountains closer to make them look more impressive, and push that foreground a little bit further back to really balance that composition out. And then if you're using swing, it does the same thing. So if you swing it this way, so the side's out, the side's close, anything on this side of the frame is going to be pulled closer, and anything on this side of the frame is going to be pushed further away. So interesting compositional tools that you can use to really make your image unique. And yeah, really looking forward to getting to use this beast. So yeah, have a couple of videos planned already. First one will be me just practicing using this thing. I have two images that I want to practice. One is an old building down on State Highway 1. It's an old fertilizer building or of some description. So that'll be an interesting one to shoot on State Highway 1. and but it'll be one where I'll use that shift, so I'll catch the side of the building and use that shift to bring it back in straight in centre. So that'll be a cool shot to attempt. And the second shot's actually at my place of work. There's an old shed with a diesel generator that sits inside of it, and at dusk a couple of spotlights turn on, and that's going to be a challenge for metering, and that's what I really want to test myself on there, is metering that shot to balance the ambient light with the artificial light. But also I'll use a little bit of lens rise on that, I think, in order to bring it slightly down, because it's in a car park, and so I want to eliminate some of the car parkiness about it. So yeah, keep an eye out for those videos. I'll be shooting those in the next few weeks, maybe even one tomorrow if the weather plays. But yeah, keep an eye out for me using these and the giveaway. Don't forget, affiliate links down below if you want to help me out, because I get a small cut on those purchases. And thanks for watching.